This episode is proudly supported by Westholme Australian Wagyu. Whether you're a chef or just love going to restaurants, you know the best ingredients are everything, especially when it comes to beef. Westholme, based in Queensland and the Northern Territory, Australia, is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. They steward 16 million acres of rangeland, guided by the natural ecosystem where cattle graze and forage on native grasses for the first few years of their lives. The result is high-quality Wagyu beef that reflects the terroir of Northern Australia. Westholme believe that when nature leads, flavour follows. Learn more at westholme.com.
I really wanted to focus on the beers that I think we make that are world-class, and that, when I'm traveling overseas, we're exporting our products, I really am super confident in the quality of them.
Hello, everybody out there in listener land. This is Dani Valent with you for an episode of Dirty Linen. And as always, I'm super grateful to have you, to be with you, to be in your ears. Just want to remind you that we have a newsletter at the Deep in the Weeds network where we, collect interesting snippets, give a little backstory to some of the podcasts, catch you up on some chats that you might have missed. So head to any of our socials or the deepintheweeds.com.au website and you can sign up. We would love to have you as part of that community as well as our audio community. Today, we are going to have a good old chat about the world of craft beer with Wildflower's Topher Boehm. There is so much in the air around the independent beer world. There are a lot of breweries closing. Beer consumption is overall down, but people are still very interested in independent beer and interesting tastes. So I guess this is going to be a chat about collaboration, inclusive work culture, changing a small business to suit the times, and I guess probably working really hard. Topher, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me.
It is such a pleasure to have you on the show. For people who don't know Wildflower, do you want to just give us a little bit of an intro?
Sure. We are based on Gadigal Wongaland here in Sydney. We're in the suburb of Marrickville, so inner west of Sydney, right under the flight path, which you might hear in my audio when a plane comes over. We've been here since 2016. We focus on making beers with organic, regenerative organic grains grown here in New South Wales and fermenting those grains with yeast and bacteria foraged from native flowers. So the easiest analog to what we do is sourdough bread of beer, using native yeast, slow, natural fermentations that tend to go a little bit more funky, but also a bit more expressive. And that's what we like to do.
Yeah, well, I was thinking in preparation for this chat about the first time I met you, and it actually was at the Grains Festival, which celebrates mostly sourdough bread, but of course brewing is part of that same world of letting microorganisms do their wonderful work with grains. So yeah, it all makes sense. So Topher, I think, I guess a lot of people listening to this will enjoy craft beer. They may go on beer crawls and go to craft breweries, or they may just love going to the corner pub and drinking something from one of the big players. But give us an overview of this landscape, because there's certainly a lot of disruption in it at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I am not going to pretend to be an oracle, nor someone who's can speak for the entirety of the industry. From what I can see, from where I am, there's definitely a shift happening majorly when it comes to consumer spending is the main part of it. But that's really been hit at the same time, at least in our industry, with rising costs. And this is not anything new. I mean, everyone here understands that their energy bills have gone up quite a bit. What's unique, I think, to the brewing industry as opposed to, say, wine or distilling is we are sort of more of an on-demand product. So we tend, maybe not necessarily our beer, but the majority of beer is it's made on demand. It's not made in anticipation for and aged and then sold. So we do feel, I think, these kind of rising glass or can costs, rising energy costs, rising grain costs, and rising excise costs, so taxation. It's seen in our products a bit quicker, and that's coming at the same time. Those costs are coming at the same time as consumer spending dropping. So people aren't willing to pay, or they don't have as much. Not just they're willing, they just don't have, and I completely understand this, don't have as much to spend at the end of the week or at the end of the day on something that's still, an enjoyable and very consumed beverage, beer. But, it's that point of sale question, do you spend $22 for a 4-pack or do you spend $25 for a 6-pack? And, depending on the time of day and how you're feeling and what your bank account balance is doing that week, sometimes you're going to go for the more valued option, in terms of, volume to price point. And so we completely understand that. So the industry is seeing both of those things at the same time. So as the costs are rising, people aren't necessarily able to, or they don't feel that they can raise their sale costs onto the consumer at the same rate as the input costs are rising. And that's come again, now at another time, combined with this sort of written about, not necessarily issue, but kind of trend for the ATO, which is moving away from operating as a bank, which a lot of people, I'm not saying that anyone in the brewing industry, but I know that across industries, the ATO tended to be not a bad person to owe money to, because they tended to be quite reasonable with payment plans and things like that, particularly when it comes to small business. And there's definitely been a shift in the past 6 months to a year at the ATO. I don't even want to know how much money is probably owed to the ATO from various businesses around Australia, but clearly there was some direction within the organization that said, okay, we can't extend these terms anymore to people. We need to draw in the debt that they have. And so there's sort of those three things I think that any small business is probably seeing. I think that the impact on beer is being seen quite quickly because of that immediacy of the production to sale of the product. We don't have, a year's worth of vintage of wine sitting in the cellar that we can adjust pricing for going forward.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, and on the ATO, which is such an issue for so many food and drink businesses, I think that industry, broad as it is owes the most money, like per dollar or whatever, or size of business of any industry in Australia. So, yeah, it's I think it's been pretty normal. I mean, what do you think? Has it been pretty normal for food and drink businesses to just let those ATO debts, keep rolling?
Well, I mean, you try not to. We're at, like, all things being quite candid, we have a debt with the ATO right now, like my company does, and we're comfortable with it, and we are paying it off in time. But it's quite normal to, when you're paying a family and a supplier who's growing grain or growing fruit or a beekeeper, when it comes to that, or paying PAYG or your BAS statement. I mean, you don't want to, but I mean, I know who I'm going to be paying, and if the money's not there, the money's not there. So it's difficult. I don't know how widespread that is. I don't necessarily so anecdotally, yeah, I feel like it's quite common. But I have friends in the construction industry, and it happens there. But the debts are in the millions, not the tens or hundreds of thousands. So it's not specific. I mean, from my understanding, it's not solely specific in the hospitality industry.
Absolutely. It's society-wide for sure. But it's interesting because of course, you want to pay your suppliers, and it's always heartbreaking when you hear of a business going down and they owe money to the people that they were dealing with so closely. But ATO debts are to the whole of society. It's impersonal in a way, but of course, that's the hospitals and the schools and all that stuff. So it's in the end, it's all of our money. But that's a bit of a philosophical discussion, I guess.
I completely agree with that, and I think it's one of the things that we talk about the broader industry and a number of the business decisions that various businesses are making. Whether it comes to going into voluntary administration or closing their doors or whatnot. I mean, there is a real cost to this, and I, for myself, our debt with the ATO is very much within a comfortable amount that I will be paid back, I'd say, in the next 2 months. But because I'm completely with you, these fees of operating businesses in Australia aren't malleable. They've always been there. It's just the cost of doing business in a country that is a very, as you can hear from my voice, I'm a native Texan. I'm very happy to be doing business in Australia, not only now, but I think into perpetuity. I'm very, very happy to receive the benefits of this country. So very happy to be paying. I completely agree with you on the ideological standpoint.
Yeah, well, I guess in a way, Wildflower, it's funny in a way to have you on as not, as you say, you're not an oracle and you're not representing, the whole industry, but I would also say Wildflower is a bit of an outlier in some ways. You're in that Marrickville area where there are so many breweries, but you're not really on the bro trail. I would say Wildflower has a bit of a different vibe and a different outlook in terms of a real connection to land and to farmers and to seasons. So yeah, you both are and are not representative.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but all of my friends are representative, so we end up playing, and I do sort of see outwardly, even though I try my best to keep in with my little shell and act like none of these macroeconomic things are affecting me.
So Topher, I guess one response that business owners could have to this environment is to be ultra competitive and to really find your points of difference and, really go after your target market. But I guess one of the reasons I wanted to have this chat is that you've gone in a little bit of a different direction and moved more into a collaboration. So can you talk about that? Talk about what you're doing with Mountain Culture and the Village?
Yeah. So, we, about 3 weeks ago, announced that our cellar door or our home here in Marrickville on Brompton Street was becoming a joint taproom, we call it, with Mountain Culture Brewery. Mountain Culture is owned by DJ and Harriet McCready. DJ and Harriet are personal friends of me and my wife, and have been for the better part of a decade, so before either of us owned our own breweries. And we've worked together as businesses quite closely, very, very intertwined since the beginning of both of our businesses. I physically helped build their Katoomba home, and DJ physically helped build our Brompton Hero home. So it's very much been a part of each other's story since the beginning. About a year ago, and again, this is not me coming about, this wasn't me seeing something that was going to happen and trying to react to it. But about a year ago, Mountain Culture, DJ and I were just off on a walk, catching up as mates. And we started talking about this idea of sharing our spaces really with each other through the development of Gold Street Dairy, which is a small micro dairy cheesery run by Chef Colin Wood, who is a very good friend of mine and business partner. We have a cheesery here on site. Gold Street is here on site, and through the DA process of getting approvals, council approvals to do that, it actually opened our license as a space to not solely sell our beer. And so we didn't actually really even know that at the time, but when we after Gold Street had been operating for about 6 months, town planner sort of told me, hey, you could offer other products if you wanted. Now that planning pathway is open. Whereas in the past, that was many New South Wales producers would have been tied necessarily to only selling their own products. Anyway, because of that, started talking to TJ and thinking like, hey, you guys are building, that company is building a national profile, quite well known, quite visible. Do you think there'd be value for you as a mountain culture to have a space in Sydney for your customers to gather, a home, as it were, to do that? And at the same time, for me, there's a lot of tourism up in the Blue Mountains, and so they have a venue in Katoomba and a venue at Emu Plains, the production side. A lot of tourism up there, and a lot of takeaway sales, and our products are very tied to country. They make a great gift. They're sort of presented nicely, and I thought, we both thought for our company, for Wildflower, it'd be great to have sort of preferred places to purchase our beer as well. And so we sort of spitballing this idea, and what very much started off as two mates just going, yeah, of course we're going to do this. I love drinking your beer, you love drinking my beer, we like making beer together. Let's do this. It has ended up becoming having so many more people involved than we ever thought. This sounds like this conversation that you have, and then you realize to integrate those things and to do two different companies and make the various arrangements that make sure that everyone's getting equally valued out of that has been just took a bit longer than we thought. Actually, like, quite lovely, and a lot of things that we've gone, oh yeah, we need to set up these sorts of arrangements anyway. So while it was about a year ago we started talking about it, we announced this 3 weeks ago. And so we've changed the name of our site here from, it was just, Wildflower Space. We changed it to Village, which is the name of the collaborative beer that we've been making together since 2020 as is. And it certainly kind of envelops this idea that it obviously takes Village to do many things. And I think, as you say, Danny, that there are various options to go when it comes to responding to the local market, and what happening a bit wider in terms of the economics of things, and sort of blind luck, I'd call it, or maybe stupidly, or I don't know, just a bit of fun. This has ended up being really positive, I think, for both of our companies. It's given mountain culture that preferred spot, this guaranteed space where they can tell people in Sydney, yep, you can always go get our freshest beers, on tap there. And for us, it's widened the offering for our customer group that do come, have been coming to our space since 2017. If you're not into a mixed culture barrel-aged beer fermented with peaches or something like that, and just want a pale ale, well, we can do that now. And I can be, from a venue perspective, we can be confident that we're giving you something that is of the highest quality that we can source. So it's been great to just broaden that offering for the customer that comes here, while really keeping the focus for both of our businesses externally. Mountain Culture isn't looking at starting a mixed culture side of their production, and Wildflower is not looking at making pale ales and hazy IPAs anytime soon. But we get to lean on each other for those styles to allow our spaces, our three spaces across, Village, which is certainly the most visually shared one, from an outward perspective, but also at Emu Plains and at Katoomba, that a customer that goes there can just have really, really great beer experience, full stop, no matter what they're asking. And so, yeah, it's been really positive. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm super stoked about having this. I like to think like a sort of a one-stop shop almost for a really great beer experience in Sydney. At least that's the idea.
It's really nice. I guess there could be a scarcity mindset at play when economic times are a little bit crunched. But I feel like instead of sort of bunkering down and keeping everything close and almost, like maybe leaning into specialization, you're broadening out and, just trusting in in community and that there'll be enough of the pie for everybody. I mean, how does that sort of reading of it sit with you? And do you think this is a sort of values-based move that you guys have made?
Oh, definitely. I think the reading is exactly right. And I think when I was mentioning it to you initially, Dani, I loved your take on it, was seeing, straight through, I suppose, the joint venture. It's not a joint venture, but this kind of collaboration and focusing it on collaboration and that strength. I completely agree with how you've positioned that. Oh my gosh, I forgot the second part of the question. Yeah, 100%. I like completely. It really is. We at Wildflower, we made a decision at the end of last year before doing this, that we were going to draw back on the variety of beer that we're making. And we have a experimental side where we have a membership group of customers here in Australia who we make beer specifically for. They make 10 different beers a year. So we have this kind of channel for experimentation that's called the Collective, this internal membership group. So we have that channel for experimentation. But outside of that, I really wanted to focus on the beers that I think we make that are world-class, and that, when I'm traveling overseas and we're exporting our products, I really, really am super confident in the quality of them. And that was very much a values-based decision, because we could have easily gone down this variety and volume, method, whereby we kind of create a fear of missing out mentality around our releases, I suppose, the various beers that we're making, and kind of just pushing this style of consumerism that increases anxiety for people about what they need to taste or want to taste. And I looked at my sort of most I looked to the brands that I respect and want to emulate the most, and they tend to be out of Europe. And a lot of those beer brands were and wineries were making only a handful of products, but really, really high quality. And so we sort of intentionally already had dropped volume, had dropped our production volume at the start of since the big end of last year. And that was value driven based on what I'd like to see philosophically from our brand. And carrying that on, I was thinking we're not going to be able to offer the same the variety at Cellar Door. And so by doing this collaboration, we were able to, continue that sort of continue a broader offering than even what we had. And yeah, certainly value based for us to stick in our bunker and go, this is what we do really, really well. And you know what? They make great pale ale and IPA. We should see if they would want to do something.
I think there is a real temptation for people when business is a little bit trickier to try to appeal to everybody all the time in all different ways. And I think you're showing that by being open to what other people are really good at and celebrating that as well, that you can that there can be a business strength in that. I really like it. It also makes me think of, I recently wrote about Kare, which is this Japanese curry house in Melbourne, and they did a collab recently with a taco place, so CDMX Taqueria, and they're both doing, I guess, low to mid-priced specialist food, with big flavors and really, just like a lot of intention, and then to celebrate each other's very different strengths just seemed like a win all round, and then customers go to one place, they learn about the other. It's just I love just the idea of building networks and strength in that, rather than everybody, like marinating in their own pain.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really important point is that a lot of small business owners tend to be quite do-it-yourself approach people, and you have to be, because you've got to figure out how to be HR and be accounts and be all of the various hats that everyone wears. And so we tend to, when faced with a problem, we tend to think, how am I going to solve this? Instead of, I guess suppose not instead of, but another way of looking at that is, hey, someone else is solving these problems really, really well, or doing that really, really well. Maybe I don't need to do this all myself. I can lean on someone else who that is their expertise. And that's not just in, the business side of things. I think as you're talking about, particularly the creative side of things is where we probably have the most difficulty in sort of yielding our own DIY approach.
We spoke about values, and I know that something that Wildflower's, focused on is an inclusive space to drink beer. And the last person that we spoke to from Wildflower was Namisha Dale Cully, and that was maybe just over a year ago when there was a big blow up around misogyny and sexism and unsafe culture in the craft beer world. How do you think that is all playing out? Do you think that the tough times in craft beer, make it harder for people to focus on some of the tricky things? Or do you think in general that things are shifting for the better?
Oh, I would like to think the latter. Current experience doesn't suggest that. I need to say in advance that one of the major reasons that we were able to make this value-based decision and collaboration with Mountain Culture is the work of Namisha, who is the head of our hospitality here at Wildflower. She's an exceptional worker and employee, and she's just incredible. So it was awesome for her to be on your podcast in the past, and I'm glad that you have raised this point. I was speaking with her this morning, just at our weekly catch up, and was asking her experience about how things have continued on. And I think when things get harder within business, it would be my viewpoint that things like inclusive work culture or creating better HR policies for your employees, they do tend to fall off the list of things to do, which is not great. And so I, anecdotally, between what I've seen and experienced and heard about in the industry, I don't know that conversation, while it's certainly continuing, I'm not sure it's necessarily getting better at any kind of quantum level. We still see every week, we still have people coming into the cellar door asking to talk to the brewer, or when Namisha is more knowledgeable about the beers than probably I am in a lot of ways. We have so many micro moments, not only just here, but particularly at festival environments, that do indicate to me, at least, that there's still plenty of work to do. And I have a very small family, 3 little kids, and a wife, and we have this business. And from my perspective, I'm very much focused on what we can do within our 4 walls to help create an environment here that is supportive and inclusive. And I don't feel like I have enough knowledge or experience or much of a voice externally to change things at the moment on a broader scale. Maybe that's a bit of a cop out for me at the moment, but I feel like what we try to do internally is what we can do our best at, and what I can hear about what I hear about or the experiences that people share with me about how they experiences from the beer industry indicate to me that we still have more work to do, for sure.
Yeah, well, you've got to start where you are. There's not really any other place to start. I read a stat recently where I think independent brewers make up about 7% of the beer sold in Australia, but they employ more than half of the industry's workers. So you would have to think if everybody started where they are, then it would actually make quite a difference and filter through. And it is also understandable, but quite dispiriting to hear you say that that when there is a lot of pressure on businesses that culture is one of the ththings that goes by the wayside. I mean, that's so understandable, but so gutting, really, because, you just... if you want people to work in, if you want good workplaces that people are engaged and ultimately that's better for your business, then it feels like a really dangerous and disappointing thing to not always find time to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think just in terms of what can be done, I think within your organization, I suppose, to really simple, I should say simple, but kind of bite-sized things that could be a take-home would be, one, titles, like making sure that people have the titles of what the job is that they're actually doing. It really helps if there is a shift in working arrangements and someone needs to go to another company, that they have the title at that time that they can put on their resume of what they were doing. And I think that tends to be something that we, as an industry, don't do super well, is kind of titling people appropriately. And then within your organization, exactly as you're saying, having that diverse working group means that when, in the same way that we're doing, collaboration with other people and recognizing our own, what we're good at and what we're not good at, having more diversity in your workforce mean that there are going to be more opinions. And that's a really positive thing, in the sense that other people's experiences are going to inform the ideas that they might have for any kind of business decision, or what should we do here, what should we do there. The harder part, and I think so, A, having the people is important to have those that variety. B, asking the questions is good, and fielding various opinions for that. And C, I think could be the harder part is listening. So actually asking people what they think and listening to that, and trying to maybe get in past our own biases that we might have already, thinking, well, I again, DIY approach, well, I know what's best. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe having the diverse workforce that you have and listening to the opinions that they have really, I think, can really benefit your place, your business. I mean, we've seen that very, 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 very directly here. So anyway, I sort of something that can be done within your four walls, I suppose, without trying to be a preacher about it.
So Topher, I'm really looking forward to coming back to Wildflower and experiencing the whole village vibe. Maybe choose a beer that I should try, one of yours and one of Mountain Culture's.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you. We look forward to having you. Well, the one that you should probably taste initially, if you come within the next few months while we have it, will be the beer called Village. This year, it's a 1, 2, and 3 year blend of beers that we brew up at Katoomba in each winter. So they're Wildflower beers made in collaboration with Mountain Culture, as we have done since their first winter, and they're heavily inspired by the goose and lambic traditions of Brussels. So these beers are left out overnight to cool via the nighttime air, and they are inoculated with the yeast and bacteria from the Blue Mountains, from the Katoomba area, and they're left sort of uninoculated, so we don't introduce any yeast. We don't introduce our house culture of yeast and bacteria from flowers. We just let whatever microbiology was in the air start the fermentation, and they age for many, many years. So that's a fun one to make, to come taste. If you're on the Mountain Culture side, we've invested quite heavily in a series of taps, these Locke side pole taps that are made in the Czech Republic and are at point of service really increase the mouthfeel and body of light lagers. So a lot of lager beers, around that 4 to 6% ABV. And so we have these taps now at Village, and we're really showcasing the broadness and the variety and the warmth that you can get from lighter ABV, like lower ABV lagers. And Mountain Culture is making a range of those actually here. They're actually brewing some of them here at Wildflower using our equipment, which is fairly rustic, to make these clean monoculture lagers, as well as they make a huge variety up at their sites as well. So the lagers will always be ongoing. Village is one that we do together, which would be great to taste when you're here as well.
Oh, I love it. And I have to say, I just have so enjoyed sitting in your space and feeling like I'm also on a little bit of a trip around the countryside and engaging with the seasons. It is really special what you do. So I look forward to experiencing the amplification of everything that you're about with this new collaboration. Topher, so good to have you on the show. And I think there's so much that people can extrapolate from what you're doing to their own workplaces. So thank you for being so open in sharing with us today. And sincerely wish you all the best.
You're very welcome. And thank you again for having me.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.